In December 1872, a merchant ship was found drifting in the Atlantic Ocean. Its sails were partially raised, its cargo was intact, its personal belongings were untouched, but there was no one on board. No signs of a struggle, no bodies, no explanation. The ship's name was the Mary Celeste, and what happened to her crew remains one of the greatest maritime mysteries in history. The Mary Celeste was a modest American merchant brigantine built for long transatlantic journeys. On November 7, 1872, she departed from New York, bound for Genoa, Italy. Her cargo, over 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol. Her crew, 8 experienced sailors, led by Captain Benjamin Briggs, a respected and cautious seaman. On board with him were his wife Sarah and their 2-year-old daughter Sophia. It was meant to be a routine voyage, calm, professional, uneventful. Captain Briggs was known for being disciplined and deeply religious, not reckless or impulsive. He kept meticulous logs, followed procedures, and avoided unnecessary risks. Those who knew him described him as careful to a fault. Nothing about this journey suggested danger. And then, the Mary Celeste vanished. On December 5, 1872, nearly a month after her departure, another ship, the Dei Grazia, spotted a vessel drifting aimlessly near the Azores. From a distance, something felt wrong. The ship wasn't responding to signals. Her movements were slow, uncoordinated, almost hesitant, as if no one was guiding her. When the crew boarded the ship, they made a discovery that would echo through history. The Mary Celeste was completely abandoned. The cargo was still there. Food supplies were untouched. The crew's personal belongings, clothing, pipes, tools, were neatly stored in their usual places. The captain's logbook showed the last entry dated 10 days earlier. The ship was seaworthy, though bearing minor damage consistent with heavy seas. No sign of piracy, no sign of violence, but the lifeboat was missing. Everything aboard the Mary Celeste suggested sudden departure. A half-dismantled pump lay in the hold. Charts were still spread across the navigation table. Beds were unmade, as if the crew had planned to return shortly. Even more unsettling, Captain Briggs's prized sextant and navigation instruments were gone. He had taken them with him. This detail mattered. It meant the departure was intentional. This was not a mutiny, not a theft, not a chaotic escape. It looked like a calculated decision, made quickly but not blindly. Weather records later showed no major storm in the area at the time. The sea had been unsettled, but not catastrophic. So why would an experienced captain abandon a perfectly functional ship with his wife and young child aboard? When the Mary Celeste was brought to port, authorities launched an official investigation. At first, suspicion fell on the crew of the Dei Grazia. Had they murdered the original crew and staged the scene to claim salvage rights? But no evidence supported this theory. The timelines didn't align. The crew's testimonies were consistent. There were no signs of a struggle anywhere on the ship. Attention turned back to the Mary Celeste herself. One detail stood out: the cargo of alcohol. Several barrels were empty, not stolen, but leaking. Industrial alcohol produces invisible fumes, highly flammable, potentially explosive. A sudden release of vapor could have caused a loud bang, frightening but not destructive. Could Captain Briggs have believed an explosion was imminent? Over the years, explanations multiplied. Explosion theory. A buildup of alcohol fumes may have caused a sudden pressure burst. No fire, no damage, but enough to terrify the crew. Fearing a larger explosion, Briggs may have ordered everyone into the lifeboat, planning to stay nearby and return once the danger passed. If the lifeboat was tethered to the ship and the rope snapped, the current would have carried it away within minutes. Navigation error. The logbook suggested Briggs may have misjudged his position. He may have believed land was closer than it actually was. A fatal mistake in open ocean. structural fear. The malfunctioning pump may have convinced him the ship was taking on water. In the 19th century, faulty readings could mean death. Then there are the darker theories: mutiny, piracy, murder, but none explain why valuables were untouched or why the captain's family was taken along. And finally, the legends: ghost ships, sea monsters, curses, stories that grew louder as the evidence stayed silent. The most haunting part of the Mary Celeste is not how the crew disappeared, but why they chose to leave. Everything suggests they believed it was the safer option. Captain Briggs did not abandon ships lightly. If he made that call, it was because staying aboard felt more dangerous than the open sea. It was a decision made under pressure, with limited information and no second chances. A single judgment, reasonable in the moment, that sealed every fate on board. For a brief moment, they must have believed they were in control, that they could wait it out, that the danger would pass. Maybe they stayed close to the ship at first, watching it drift, expecting to return. But the ocean doesn't negotiate, and once distance takes hold, there's no way back. The Mary Celeste herself continued sailing for years after the incident, but her reputation never recovered. Sailors refused to serve on her. Owners struggled to insure her. Her name became synonymous with bad luck. Writers later transformed the story into something more sensational, adding bloodstains, unfinished meals, final messages that never existed. Fiction blurred with fact, but the real story was quieter and far more disturbing. No violence, no villain, just absence. The ocean does not explain itself. It does not return what it takes. It leaves behind fragments, wood, sails, holes, but keeps the truth. The Mary Celeste reminds us that rational people can make fatal choices and never live long enough to correct them. There is no final answer here. No revelation waiting to be uncovered. Only a ship drifting on empty seas. Somewhere in the Atlantic, the crew of the Mary Celeste vanished into the water. No graves, no witnesses, no closure. What would you have done in Captain Briggs's place? Would you trust the ship or the lifeboat? Let us know in the comments, and join us next time on Real Dark Stories, where the truth doesn't sink, it disappears.